I've started many businesses. The most interesting part about starting businesses over the last, I'm going to call it 30 plus years, is how many times.
So Dave, welcome to the show. It's a real pleasure to have you.
Jason, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. I'm excited to talk. We met a couple years ago at the NNBA conference, actually several years ago now. And it's going to be fun to catch up. You've got quite the entrepreneurial journey and a lot of success. So I love what you're doing and what you've been up to. And I love to get the show started off by having our guests talk a little bit about sort of how you got to where you are today. So take us back to being, young Dave, what that was like, where you grew up. Did you have entrepreneurs in the family? And sort of walk us through how you got to where you are.
No problem. So, what's interesting is I actually started my entrepreneurial journey as early as the 5th grade. My dad was stationed military in Hawaii. And when we were there, they would sell these gumballs on these trucks, and I'd buy them for 50 cents for a pack of 12, and I'd end up selling them to my friends for 25 cents each. And that's when I recognized that I can actually make money by buying in volume and selling them out, or distributing, if you will. And that was as early as the 5th grade. And then from that point on, I started doing anything and everything entrepreneurial, from mowing lawns to running a lawn business where I had people in 8th grade working for me, where people were working and I was actually just the person that would find the opportunity. And then from there, it just took off. I've written books. I've started many businesses. The most interesting part about starting businesses over the last, I'm going to call it 30 plus years, is how many times you fail before you finally succeed. So in my 30 plus years of entrepreneurialism, I've had more failures than successes. But when you finally do succeed, it's typically and historically a good success. And from my perspective, it's been great. So again, young, early entrepreneur, and still one to this day.
Yeah. So walk us through the path of how you first, started your air quotes, real business. Cause I had a couple of those kid businesses too, which were great. I think they were great learning experiences, but you went to school, right? You became a registered nurse. You did some critical care stuff. Walk us through that part of the journey.
Sure. So I went to University of Kentucky, graduated in 1996 with my BSN. Never wanted to be a nurse. Thought it'd be cool to become a nurse. My parents were both nurses. Wanted to be a nurse anesthetist because that's what my dad did. But ironically enough, I wasn't actually interested in the job itself. I was more interested in the opportunity as far as the dollars that you could make as well as the title. But the hardest part about that was I realized it wasn't a job that I wanted to do. I just wanted the prestige as well as the dollars. So from that point on, I was like, if I'm going to be a nurse, I want to be something entrepreneurial. Well, ironically enough, I was in the military as an Army nurse, did CVICU, cardiovascular ICU, anything high stress, high critical, if you will, from nursing perspective, and then had the opportunity when I got out of the military to actually do medical equipment sales. From that angle, I realized, I really like talking to people. I like selling stuff. Here I am as a clinician with the ability to sell. I need to do something from an entrepreneurial perspective, taking advantage of where we are today. So I'd always thought about home health, hospice, something where I could sell my services to a third-party system. And back in 2007, a partner and I came together as registry nurses and decided to start a home health agency. And that was the birth of Advanced Clinical Associates. Again, starting relatively small, a team of 2, where we took care of patients as we built our business, and over a period of 16 years, built it to what it is today, which is a W-2 in-house team of 84 full-time employees, seeing over almost 600 visits a week. It's just been a great business, and I think it's only going to continue to grow.
Awesome. 16 years. That's dedication right there. That's a testament to, sort of being able to keep the blinders on, right? Because that's the entrepreneurial sort of thing, is to like go off in a million different directions and try and start 20 different businesses and see these shiny objects and chase them all down. So kudos to you for sticking with the same thing for 16 years. That's awesome.
Well, I appreciate that. And what's interesting is I have been distracted many times as over the last 16 years with other opportunities, but recognize quickly that you almost have to put your energy where the dollars are at, where the opportunity's at. Again, I agree with you. Chasing that shiny little new toy is always exciting. The problem is you're starting from scratch. And so do I move on to an asset that has, quote, potential, or do I continue to grow an asset that's actively generating income? And so that was the variable. And so with that being said, I've always continued with Advanced Clinical.
Yeah. So take us back to when you were first starting. You said that you had a partner. Was it like a work colleague or?
It was a business partner that I met as a registry nurse. It was interesting. We started as registry nurses working for registries. And again, for all those that don't know that, as nurses, you can sell your soul to the devil, if you will. I worked at 30 plus hospitals throughout the city of Phoenix. And what that meant is I worked for a third party company, and they would send me to locations where I would either be an ICU nurse or an ER nurse or a cardiac cath lab nurse for the highest bidder, if you will. And at the time, hospitals were paying ungodly amounts long before COVID. Time and a half plus 100, time and a half plus 150, time and a half plus 500. So what we realized is everybody and their brother was starting these agencies. So with a partner, we decided, you know what, we can do this. If those guys over there can do it, why can't we do it? So him and I started as a registry company, and we focused our energy on an immediate opportunity, which was a long-term care facility where they were like, guys, we've got 6 or 7 shifts a week for both of you. The sky's your oyster. I mean, the world is your oyster. You can make as much money as you want. And we realized we can bring on more people. While we were there working as registry nurses, building our registry, we started meeting these patients that were in these long-term care facilities because nobody had the clinical experience to manage them in their own homes. So with that entrepreneurial spirit, we reached out to the case management of some of these workmen's compensation injuries and said, listen, I believe we could take care of this patient in their home significantly cheaper than you guys are paying for these long-term care facilities. Will you give us this opportunity? And they said, yes. So we took advantage of the opportunity and slowly but surely started moving some of these patients out of these long-term care facilities, again, where we were working full-time, and into their home and managing them there. So that was the transition between registry to home health. And ironically enough, I owe it all to a long-term care facility that not only gave us opportunity as much as 7 days a week, nights and days, but also patients where they were like trying to discharge patients to their homes to a company that swore up and down that we could manage them, and we did. So that was the transition.
Yeah, love it. So registry is essentially basically like agency work.
It's 100% what it is.
Okay, perfect. Just want to make sure we're all on the same page. I haven't really heard the term registry too often. I don't know if it's a geographical thing or.
That's a good question. We've always known it as a registry, as in you register with a group, if you will.
Okay.
And they place you in these facilities. But yes, an agency would be what it is.
Okay, perfect. So I love it. I love it. You kind of created your own agency, which was phenomenal. That's like probably the easiest thing that you could do to boost your income, I feel like, as a registered nurse, because I mean, you could go to float pool or something like that, but you're essentially creating your own sort of 1099 gig, which tends to pay substantially more. And I love it. That was a great idea. So you created this agency. It was just you and your colleague, and then you started to grow the agency, and you spotted an opportunity to take care of critical care patients in their own home, and then you sort of started to incorporate the home health aspect. Now, making that transition is probably challenging, right? I'm sure there were some hurdles there in terms of, okay, now I got to figure out how to like bill insurance and stuff.
That was absolutely the biggest thing. Number one, we had to figure out how to bill the entire process. We had to be certified under the state, under a home health license. So we had to get all those certifications in place prior to even taking these patients home. Once we got them home, we had to figure out how are we going to staff a 24/7 case when there's only 6 or 7 nurses working for us at the time. And what we did, ironically, is we stole from the rich to pay for the poor, if you will. We took our own registry nurses that were staffed at this facility, and we used them in this long-term care opportunity in the home or in the 24/7 cases in our house. And then we built around that. But again, the hardest part we had, believe it or not, was the financial piece of building this. Again, the transition. When we talk about insurances, we agreed to a dollar amount that paid over time would be great. The problem and the key word there is time. Like we had to wait. So I will never forget when we started managing this patient in October, we didn't get paid till January. Think about this. We're a 6-month-old company, and we had to manage 14 people floating 3 months. I mean, could have been catastrophic, but we did some angles. We had lines of credit set up. There's a lot of things we did correctly. At the same time, we got pretty lucky as we learned the billing process, because I'm telling you, until we figured that out, it was super challenging. It was also very, very stressful. A lot of stressful nights, a lot of sleepless nights. Nothing worse than calling off or having people call off and then knowing that they're getting paid on Friday, and you and the partner or my business partner at the time, we're getting paid when the insurance companies release the money to the business. So a lot of challenges right there.
Yeah. So did you guys overcome the the sort of insurance challenge by hiring, like a billing company to work for you guys, or how did you figure that out?
School hard knocks. A lot of the billing was done internally. A lot of the billing, ironically enough, was done by me. It was a lot of phone calls with the adjuster, trying to have us understand their process. As a matter of fact, it got to the point where I asked them exactly how it had to be done. And can you send us and email us an example of what your business is looking for? Because we had to bill under CMS 1500s, which is a specific billing angle through Medicare, as well as through insurance companies. We didn't know how to do that. So we had to take a copy of theirs, a beta, if you will, an example. And then from there, we had to learn how to bill appropriately for them. And then once they received that bill, it was about 45 days. So the first 5 to 6 weeks of billing, they were all kicked back to us. And we thought we were billing appropriately, correctly. And they were like, no. I mean, it was very, very stressful, Jason. I got to tell you.
Yeah. So knowing what you know now, would you have made the same plays? Hindsight's always 20/20, right? Is there anything that you would have done differently?
No. It's interesting. Today, knowing what I know from a build-out perspective, I would probably buy a wounded duck, if you will. I would actually buy a home health agency that's in trouble, because a lot of the processes, the policies and procedures, ironically enough, some of the insurances, a lot of the insurances are already in place. The hardest part about what we did is we built it from scratch, literally from A to Z. And I'm going to say without hesitation, we're finally at Z from a build-out perspective over the last 18 months. But those last 15 years is where we built it from A to Z. If you build it, it's going to take you forever. It's a long journey. If you buy it, you may be buying a problem, or you may be buying something that's already established and the owners are just done. They're just tired. So in hindsight, would I build again? No, I wouldn't. I'd probably buy.